Good day. Welcome to another edition of Ebimo Amongo's Perspective on Global Affairs. Before I continue, I urge you to please press the like button. And if you're new to this show, I also urge you to subscribe. This is a special edition following up of my first video of the day, and it has to do with more updates regarding the news that are shaking the world. The capture of Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro. Nicolas Maduro was captured by special forces, American special forces, Delta forces, as we've come to learn, in an operation that was a fast lightning operation as described by President Trump. That operation at 2 a.m. in the night, Venezuelan time, was one that saw a lot of explosions, which we have now learned was a distraction as the Americans stormed Maduro's residence and captured him. He was captured, as President Trump has given us more details, before he could get into his secure places, before he could get into his strong rooms. He could not make it there. He was captured. And it seems like, from what we are also hearing now, that President Maduro may be on his way to New York. New York seems to be where President Maduro will ultimately face justice, according to the Americans. Americans, we should remember, have put a 50 million bounty on President Maduro and accused him of several crimes. But eventually we got to know what kind of specifics are to those crimes, because Pam Bondi, the Attorney General, the U.S. Attorney General, has also put out a tweet where she has given us more clarity as to what is going to be happen to Maduro and where Maduro will face American justice. This is the tweet. Nicolas Maduro and his wife, Celia Flores, have been indicted in the Southern District of New York. Nicolas Maduro has been charged with narco-terrorism conspiracy, cocaine importation conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices against the United States. They will soon face the full wrath of American justice on American soil in American courts. On behalf of the entire US, DOJ, and I would like to thank President Trump for having the courage to demand accountability on behalf of the American people. And a huge thank you to our brave military who conducted the incredible and highly successful mission to capture these two alleged international narco traffickers. So we have now heard it that it is in New York. Amidst all the high-rise buildings of New York, amidst the 8 million people population of New York, southern New York, and that is where President Maduro ultimately will be tried whenever this process gets to that area. Anyway, what has happened though is that the world has started to respond to this affront on what they see as international law. There's been a lot of condemnation of this event, and this condemnation has been led by the first country to say something about it before any other country is the Russian state. The Russian Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs actually put out this tweet. The US has committed an act of armed aggression against Venezuela, which gives rise to deep concerns and warrants condemnation. The pretexts used to justify these actions are untenable. Russia reaffirms its solidarity with the Venezuelan people. It says regarding armed aggression by the US against Venezuela. The condemnation has been, the responses has been quite a lot. Besides that of Russia, there's also been another one from the next door neighbor to America, and that's Mexico. Mexico is one of the countries also indicted or also said to be a point of entry for drugs into America. And Claudia Sheinbaum Pardo has said Article 2, Paragraph 4 of the Charter of the United Nations states verbatim, the members of organization in their international relations shall refrain from the threat or use of force against the territorial integrity or political independence of any state, or in any other manner inconsistent with the purpose of the United Nations. This is the position of the government of Mexico. Another big player in the international scene, China. China has also put out a tweet, and this is what they say. China is this is from the Federal Ministry of Foreign Affairs of China, China is deeply shocked by and strongly condemns the U.S. blatant use of force against a sovereign state and actions against its president. Such hegemonic acts of the U.S. seriously violate international law and Venezuela's sovereignty and threaten peace and security in Latin America and the Caribbean region. China firmly opposes it. We call on the United States to abide by international law and the purposes and principles of the UN Charter and stop violating other countries' sovereignty and security. There was also that from Belarus Minister of Foreign Affairs. Belarusian side reaffirms its unwavering support for the legitimate government of Venezuela and joins the call for an urgent convening of the United Nations Security Council, which bears primary responsibility for maintaining global peace. The Republic of Belarus emphasizes that the right of the Venezuelan people to determine their own future is inviolable. No form of external interference, particularly through force, can be justified. Then there was the statement, a very long one, I will not take all of it, but it is from Brazil. The Brazilian president, Lula, put out this tweet where he said, the bombing of Venezuelan territory and the capture of its president crossed an unacceptable line. These acts represent a most serious affront on Venezuela's sovereignty and yet another extremely dangerous precedent for the entire international community. Well, the neighbor of Venezuela and one person who has been very, very vocal about all of this that has been happening, which is Gustavo Petro of Colombia, he said, right now, they are bombing Caracas. Alert the whole world. They have attacked Venezuela. They are bombing with missiles. The Organization of American States and the UN must meet immediately. And the Europeans, led by the High Representative Kaja Kallas, put out a statement where she said, I have spoken with my Secretary of State Marco Rubio and our ambassador in Caracas. The EU is closely monitoring the situation in Venezuela. The EU has repeatedly stated that Mr. Maduro lacks legitimacy and has defended a peaceful transition. Under all circumstances, the principle of international law and the UN Charter must be respected. We call for restraint. The European Union and the European states have found themselves in a situation where they cannot, it's a quagmire it's very confusing. Their most trusted ally, the one who had defended all the dictates of international law, is the one who has now taken a big affront on international law. There's some form of dissonance in the European states. Ursula von der Leyen also put out a tweet, I should say. But the Russians are not taking this lightly already. Putin has already called for a security meeting with a security team. That is what the report says. The details of it are still being worked out and still being hashed out. So these countries have all started to say that this is an affront on international law. One other person, a Russian, the former president of Russia, the one who has particularly whose voice has been very strident in his criticism of both the American government and the Ukrainian government, Dmitry Medvedev, has also put out a tweet. It was a long one, but the essence of it is that another brilliant step towards the Nobel Peace Prize is obviously trolling President Trump and complete silence from the democratic of Europe. They've been very shocked. So they are framing how they will say what they will say and how they will approach the matter. And Caracas is the best proof that the only way for a country to assure its safety reliably is with nuclear arsenal. This is an essence of what he has said. So, as I already said, Russia is also now supporting the call for United Nations Security Council. And one person, though, who has said that this is the death and the final death of international law is Alexander Dugin. He explains how international law has collapsed and why the struggle between unipolar domination and multipolar world order is already moving towards what he sees as a third world war. This is a very serious point in history that we'll find with ourselves. So how did the Americans carry this act of affront and all? Well, it turns out that a senator in America said he spoke with Marco Rubio and the whole essence of it. In fact, that was even what President Trump said. He has had interviews with quite an extensive amount of media organizations, including the New York Times and Fox and all. He said that the air defense, the shootings and the attack on all the military infrastructure within Venezuela were mainly to distract from the process of kidnapping Maduro from, or extracting Maduro from his Venezuelan enclave. So that was it. What we got to know is that the air defense systems were attacked and destroyed. A lot of the military formations within Caracas there were destroyed. There were 5 cities that were ultimately attacked, and they were all destroyed. Well, we have known of the close special relationship between the British and the Americans. They've actually had a long history over time, a very long history regarding, one, the Venezuela and the British enclave there, Guyana. This has been a long-running issue between Britain and America, and over the course of time, we saw how when Trump started this operation, the British actually called off cooperation with the Americans because of what they saw as an affront on international law by that unilateral bombing of narco-terrorist boats that President Trump has been carrying on now for over 2 months. So Britain, Keir Starmer now told us clearly that he had no inkling and no idea about these operations. This is what he said.
It's obviously a fast-moving situation, and we need to establish all the facts. What I can say is that the UK was not involved in any way in this operation. And as you'd expect, we're focusing on British nationals in Venezuela and working very closely with our embassy. And so I will want to talk to the President, I will want to talk to allies, but at the moment, I think we need to establish the facts. I think President Trump is doing a press conference later, so hopefully more information will come out then.
What is clear, though, which the White House has said, is that America carried out strikes on Venezuela and captured their leader, Maduro. Some politicians in this country have already condemned that. Do you?
Well, I want to establish the facts first. I want to speak to President Trump. I want to speak to allies. As I say, I can be absolutely clear that we were not involved in that. And as you know, I always say and believe we should all uphold international law. But I think at this stage, fast-moving situation, let's establish the facts and take it from there. It's obviously a fast-moving situation.
We should establish the facts and take it from there. But I always support international law. Well, everybody has said that this is an affront on international law. It has emerged, though, that the administration of Maduro actually, to a large extent, survived. In my earlier report today, I had talked about the disappearance of the Minister of Defense, but it turned out that the Minister of Defense, the Minister of Interior, and other members of the administration have actually come out to say that they are well and alive. There's also mobilization going on now in Caracas within that neighborhood. The crowds that support Maduro have already started to meet in the street, and they're already working towards that. But the first indication that well, the government is alive was that the vice president made a radio announcement where she said she wanted the Americans to show proof that Maduro was still alive, proof of life. For Maduro. It will be that Maduro will be alive because he will not be his corpse that will be going to court in New York. It obviously will be himself and his wife. But this is what the Minister of Defense said. The Minister of Defense came out, he said he was in a bunker somewhere, and this is what he said.
Soldados de la patria, hijos e hijas de Bolívar. La Fuerza Armada Nacional Bolivariana informa al mundo entero que en la madrugada de hoy, 3 de enero,
so what he was saying is that the heroic people of Venezuela, soldiers of the fatherland, the Bolivarian National Armed Forces informed the entire world that the early hours of January 3rd, the Venezuelan people became targets of the most criminal military aggression by the government of the United States. Honor, duty, and history calls upon us. Let the cry of free fatherland echo every corner. Victory is ours because reason and dignity stand with us. So that is what he has said. But one other person too whose appearance has also changed the way we look at this is the Minister of Internal Affairs of Venezuela. He too has also been seen to be making a statement regarding this. So we see this action. It was an extensive action. It was one that has really shaken the world. everybody is wondering where Venezuela and what will happen to Venezuela, whether the government and administration will fall. But obviously, the attack is one that shocked the world. It was a swift one. It was very swift, and it shocked everybody in the world. We got to see also that one of the targets of the Americans was actually the building, the mausoleum housing the remains of Hugo Chavez, because he instituted this Chavista government that has now become a pain to the Americans. The Americans don't particularly like it. They lost a lot of their oil assets. They lost a lot of all the oil concessions they had in Venezuela. And they've had this running battle with Venezuela for several years now. And now we come to this historical moment. So it's ongoing. We don't know what is going to happen, but we are seeing that the world is reacting. The world is not going to sleep. But it is like John Mearsheimer has always been saying. John Mearsheimer is the one who is a realist. Great powers of this world tend to have a way of acting. For a long time now, for 70 years or 80 years, America had been the one who had led, and they had led in conjunction with their partners, the Europeans. But now they find themselves in a space where it is quite surprising that the Europeans are seeing new actions and new threats by the American state that is quite confounding. After all, Donald Trump has said that he wants Greenland. This action against Venezuela will definitely make Americans wonder, the Greenlanders and the Danes to wonder if they are going to see such an action taken against them by the American state. Nevertheless, like I said, the Venezuelans they are being rallied to stay calm. Their leadership is the Maduro administration somehow still has all these elements. And the internal minister of Venezuela was putting this face of calmness towards the people. So he says, trust in guidance and high political and military command in the situation we are facing. Remain very calm, he says. Let no one fall and make things easier for the invading army, for the terrorist enemy. He did say a lot of things to calm the people of Venezuela.
Que nadie le facilite las cosas. No es la primera lucha, no es la primera batalla que contra este pueblo han emprendido algunos, creyendo que nos van a derrotar, creyendo que van a mancillar el honor y la dignidad del soldado, del policía, del venezolano de a pie. No es la primera. Hemos sabido sobrevivir a todas estas circunstancias.
We will survive no matter the circumstances, and we will carry on. And his rhetoric, obviously, it has gone around the whole of Venezuela because the Maduro government controls all of the state-owned media organizations. They've gone around, they've seen it, they are seeing all of this now. But Corina Machido, the one who is being touted to be the vice president in the next administration, the administration that the Americans also hope to put, they have been saying that this is an action that is long overdue because, as it turns out, they feel that this third-term election, this third tenure that Maduro now has is an illegitimate one. It's illegal because they feel he lost the election that took place a few years ago. And it is for that reason they have continued to call him illegitimate. They call him illegitimate because he refused her being part of that government. So this is all that has been happening now. Venezuela has been at crosshairs, and it is very important now for us to look forward to seeing what is going to happen going forward. At this same moment, though, I should point out the Europeans are conveniently meeting in Ukraine. They are meeting in Ukraine at a point where their national security advisors are going to meet in Ukraine. They are already in Kiev. All the national security advisors of the coalition of the willing, they are all in Kiev. And it will definitely be a fact that this particular event will be discussed extensively by all of those that are gathered there. Americans are worried. I mean, the Americans also, quite a lot of the political class, quite a lot of congressmen in America are already saying that this is an illegal action. President Trump did not have the approval of Congress, and they have been making a lot of statements about it. So what do we know so far? President Trump has been for a long time now been unhappy with the Russian Venezuelan state. He has been saying that he was going to attack them. He has massed a vast array of weaponry against them, and today we saw that the Delta forces finally got in. These Delta forces, we have videos of them coming in a line. You will wonder what happened to Venezuela's air defense system, because we will have videos of them flying in a very straight line, very clear. But what we now found out is that they actually took out the air defense system supplied by the Russians over a long time ago. The bulk systems, they were all taken out. All the military places, the military command where they would have had response, the command centers were taken out. There was a lot of attack on this, and obviously there would have been confusion. There's something interesting about the date, 3rd of January. It was actually the date that America extracted Noriega from Panama. It was several years ago, about 30 years ago, if not more. So this makes it an interesting thing. Venezuela now is very confused as to what will be happening to their president and obviously his wife. They are now in American custody, probably on their way to a secret location where they will be processed. And we'll get to know more facts about this, but we know that this is an operation that has caused a lot of disquiet, both in the enemies of America and even among the allies and friends of America. Anyway, this is where I'll end this show for now. There will continue to be updates. I will put forward as much updates as I get. And if you're new to this show, please subscribe. If you have any views regarding what I've just expressed, please put them in the comment section. Do well to like and share. Until further updates, you have a great day.